All right, everybody, welcome to the I Disagree podcast. You know, I can honestly say the reason why we've named it I Disagree is because it's two words I believe that have not only changed my life, but we all wouldn't be sitting here if we didn't say I disagree. So here's basically what we stand for. In the past 3 years, there has been more disagreements, controversies, opinions, ideas, failed expectations, character reveals, surprises, disappointments, lies, beliefs, assumptions, and bullshit than ever before. Here we go. You guys ready for the first one? It would be great, wouldn't it? And we are live. Hey, everybody. Hope you guys doing wonderful. Back here on the I Disagree podcast. We got a wonderful show for you guys tonight. So excited. So how's everybody doing today?
Outstanding.
Awesome.
Loving it.
Awesome. But before we get started, what I do, I want to go around the room. I want you guys to introduce yourself. I want you to tell us about yourself. You got something neat. And also, if you have a company, you work somewhere, want to promote some things. I'm a big capitalist, so I love when people promote their business or promote what they're doing. I like people getting attention for something they're good at that way. Also, my name is Dr. Patrick Flynn. I started The Wellness Way 25 years ago. I'm married, have 4 kids, 4 daughters. It's pretty awesome having 4 girls and everything. So I'm doing this for Dana's friends that remind me to introduce who I am, so I started first that way. So
good job.
Lorenzo, let's start with you, man. Nice to see you as always. He's also a co-host, partner in crime here with us 4 here.
Yeah, now I'm all the way at this end of the table.
Yeah,
so
it's a different view over there, isn't it?
It feels different. It feels like the first time I came on. So
yeah.
I'm going to challenge you because I'm far away from you. So
you just like to be close. That's right.
I'm Lorenzo Tomas. I have a show called Random Things You Need to Know.
Which is a great show.
It is at YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, Gab, Minds, all those places. Someone made a TikTok, so I thank them. I don't know who did that. It's not me. And there's a Facebook, all of that. It's a good show. It talks about various different things, history, social issues in the world today. So sometimes we react to Maury, like we did recently. We won't be doing a lot of that. Just want to do it because we used to do it in the past. So yeah, make sure you guys check it out. It's at YouTube right now.
Nice.
I'm Ariel Perez. I am a business reporter for the Green Bay Press Gazette. I am a recent newly into fatherhood. I have a 2-year-old.
Hey, congrats.
Congratulations.
And I'm just excited to be here.
How long have you been a journalist?
Over 15 years. I started very early when I was 16 in the Dominican Republic. I'm originally from Cuba.
Yeah.
Moved there when I was young and did college, everything there.
Yeah.
And moved to Green Bay in 2020.
Nice. Do you think journalism has changed over the last couple of years?
The last decade.
Yeah.
And now it's changing again because, of course, social media was the biggest driver of news for a long time and revenues for the newspapers, the TV channels and everything. But now social media is scaling back on the news.
Yep.
So I think this is my opinion. I think it's going to go back to the print slowly.
Which I like.
I think that's the only solution, or creating a new social media that is just for news. Yep. There's some like Feedly and others, but it's not the same thing.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I have 4 journalists that work for me and stuff like that, and I always tell people investigative journalism is still that true aspect of true freedom of speech because they dig. And they're supposed to be unbiased. Yeah. You say, and it's supposed to be, if you're looking at healthcare and something's good or bad, you're unbiased. You have to tell the people what they need to hear. Yeah. And so that's why I think journalism is still one of the purest art forms of actually expression and stuff like that. That's why I can't ever be not only biased, but I also can't be hogtied. You know what I'm saying? It's got freedom of press is so important. And so thanks for being here.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
The one and only.
Hey. My name's Dana. I am 35. I'm married with 2 kids. I went to school for accounting. I was a CPA for 10 years. I actually worked on taxes for that long and then decided that was not for me anymore. And I did a career switch, and just given my passion for natural health, I became a clinical nutritionist. And then because of that, I was able to end up meeting Doc just based on similar like conferences and stuff that we went to. Mm-hmm. And so now I help co-host this podcast along with him. And I also make dating and relationship content for men on Dana Disagrees, which is on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. So make sure you check that out because I have some pretty viral videos. And I will also have some manuals coming out very soon about what it means to be masculine and what it means to be feminine.
Excellent.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I'm Travis Frisk here. I'm 43. I work here at The Wellness Way, and I love it. I wear many hats, and they're all fun. They all are a challenge, and they all provide just good stuff for me to accomplish each day. But I've been married, I think it's 11 years, and I got 2 kids, and I am just blessed to be here today. It's exciting.
Yes, and we just got back from a nice Atlanta
Yes, we
event
did.
that we did. We worked hard when we were there and had some fun and had good food, good time, good people, and stuff like that. And had
Yes.
some wonderful people from docs to students to everything. So it was a good time.
Yeah, Doc did a wonderful job. He had over 100 students listening to the Wellness Way approach, and they were just blown away. That's part of my job is receiving and taking calls, and my phone's been very busy this week.
Yeah, it's been fun. And also Atlanta, we got to see Devin and Faith and stuff like that. So welcome you guys. I said, being close friends with Dana, it was kind of cool. We knew each other for a long time, but then all of a sudden, Dana was at an event I was speaking at, and all of a sudden she asked a very good presenter that I know, and I had a lot of respect for him, but she challenged him a little bit. Now that's one thing I like about this podcast. We can agree and disagree, but still be on the same page. But Dana and all the people are kind of the same page. But then all of a sudden Dana asks a question and challenge him because he's like, "Wait, we're on the same page." But you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" I'm like, you know something? We had, just like when I met Lorenzo, he's like, he actually had some wonderful things to say. I'm like, we got to put good people together and get everybody to talk and have good issue talks that way. So like I said, me and Dana, and the first time we wrote this, it's like in the past 3 years, there's been more disagreements, controversies, opinions, ideas, failed expectation, character reveals, surprises, disappointments, lies, beliefs, assumptions, and
Bullshit.
than ever before. So we just said the purpose is, if you think of it this way, we're going to think about the stuff that we do as working in healthcare, journalism, men and women, health, everything like that. The purpose of our thing is just have a different perspective on topics of health, men and women, politics, and religion. And that's why I'm jacked up to your journalist because, man, like I said, I still think, well, the First Amendment is so important to me. You understand? Because even if I don't like what somebody says, I think it still should be written. I still think it should be said.
Yeah.
There should be no constraints unless there was something that was violent. Obviously, you don't want to ever correlate violence and stuff like that. But then, understand, you still have to say that because people say, "Wait, violence okay?" No, violence is never good that way. But the idea is be able to share those things. And so today, like I said, it's no hold barred. Say what you want. Say how you want to say it. And I'm going to make some statements. Number, it's kind of cool because you guys have done just an absolutely wonderful show. And I love that the views and everything continue to go up every week on the things that you do. And so I just put a couple of statements out there. And remember, the cool thing is they're just topics of conversation, and they meld into all the topics that we're going to talk about today. So I got 2 statements today. We're going to talk about them. And then we're going to have some dialogue of it. And remember, we're going to start, and we're going to go, Lorenzo, I'm going to say, you say, I agree or disagree. Travis, Dana, or Ariel, then what happens, and I'll say something at the end. We'll talk about it. But first, I want to know if you agree or disagree, and then we're going to come around and have you explain, okay? And just give it the best thing. There is no wrong answer. And then if you do have something to say, or if you get a little quiet, you know me, I'm gonna try to pull some stuff out of you that way. I love hearing you guys' conversations that way. So I have to tell you, when I was gone, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and I think, Lorenzo, you were hosting that day. And all of a sudden, Dana said something. No, you're sitting there, Lorenzo, and you went on a 7-minute explanation. It was awesome. I was like,
it was your story
Yes,
about
I
your
did.
crazy person.
Oh, the crazy person.
but it was good.
Yes.
I try to watch the clock when
No,
I'm
no, it's
speaking.
good because that's I love when people talk because
Yeah.
I think that what happens, a lot of people sometimes they'll make statements. Now you talked about this before we got camera. Sometimes social media people just want to take a statement, but you'd be surprised if you listen to their 7-minute discussion. The statement doesn't seem that controversial or doesn't seem that clickbaity because they had the opportunity to explain what they really meant. So I really want you guys to explain as much as you can. Go through on there. I'm going to make a statement, and sometimes it makes people upset when I make a statement. But then when I explain it, they're like, "Well, we kind of agree on these things." Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. Just a little simple thing. I'm going to say it twice, and then we'll go around the room, and then we're going to start with you on the explanation once we get back from agree or disagree. Here we go. Our culture is making men weaker and causing women to act more manly. Let me repeat that again.
Oh, I agree.
Our culture is making men weaker and causing women to act more manly.
Oh, I
Lorenzo?
agree. I agree.
I agree.
I strongly agree.
I agree.
Okay, cool. Now, what we're going to do is this. Now, remember, one thing I love about this, we can all agree on something, but you find out that sometimes there's such a difference of why we agree about it that way and stuff like that. It's a good discussion. So, Ariel, we're going to start with you. Just run through your brain. What do you got? Give us some ideas. Give us what you think. See what you see. You work with culture a lot, being a journalist. You understand?
But I would say, it's part of the culture, but I would say there's a lot of things behind that. Right? I think ideologies
Ooh, I love that.
are making men look more weak and empowering women in different ways. And I also think civic movements, when you think about feminism, how that has evolved to different things. So it's not the culture itself,
I like that.
Because there's a base there that are still, believes that
Right.
the man has certain roles and the women had certain roles, but it has been affecting, I would say.
I think you're gonna make me change my statement. I have to say, like, people's ideologies or people's, because not culture, because culture in general, I think, does it. So no, I love that. Like I said, so you're right. I think it's more like in current ideologies.
Yeah.
You're saying, like you talked about, is making it that way. So,
Yeah, I think feminism is one that is very strong.
and you said something. You said evolved. So
Yeah.
So because do you think that, as you say, it's evolved? I think that if you looked at when you can go to any past history of any group of individuals that were being suppressed or being treated badly, that it started off maybe with a decent thing, but
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like it started off as empowering women, making them more equal in the pay in the work and all that. But it's now then when they achieve that in certain way, then it's switched to, for example, the language. I come from from the Caribbean.
Yes.
I'm a Spanish speaker. It's my first language, and it started with how they changed the language. Instead of you have the children in English, in Spanish is los niños, which can equate to boys and girls. Los niños, the children, boys and girls.
Yeah.
But now in every speech that a director from the government says, they add niños y niñas. Los niños.
really,
Oh.
And so they make these speeches really long. And that's just one example. I mean, they've
never knew that.
That's a lot of extra words, like over time.
Exactly. So it's
you know,
insane.
yeah.
Like, why would you change the language? That it's gonna evolve either way, because there's new jargon and all that. But why would you change the base of the language? And then there's other things like saying like the women are equal as men in every aspect. We're totally different, I think. Men have certain roles at home. Like I see it with my wife. She's very nurturing with our kid, but I am a little bit more strong with him,
Yep.
And then you can see how he reacts. He knows that if I say something, he's going to be like, okay, daddy, or if he's going to bed, for example, he doesn't want to go to bed. And she goes in two or three times. And then when I talk, hey, Felix, go to bed. Be quiet.
Yep.
Right away. So we have certain different roles. We have, and that's changed. It doesn't mean that we cannot agree on everything. I mean, me and my wife make decisions together, and that empowers her. Lifts her up. It doesn't make me less of a man. Yep. But in the society, it's changing, right? It's kind of like we have this fight against patriarchy and reducing the men, and I think that's bad.
Yep.
I think that's not good.
So in the Caribbean, what is if they look, because you grew up there, you're still involved that way. Is the United States different than the Caribbean right now? Does Caribbean still have those traditional cultures like we were talking about before? What does that culture, what does that community think about what's happening here? Because I see what you stand for.
Yeah.
But what does that overall culture think about what's going on here?
I mean, there's a growing community in the Hispanic countries that are seeing what's happening here, and some are riding that wave. Others are like, no, that's crazy. It's not good for the future of humanity, for example. So I think in some ways Hispanic countries are very traditional, very conservative, very religious.
I say, don't they have a more basis of a Catholic based and stuff like that?
Yeah. But now it's kind of Protestant church. It's growing. But either way, the man has a role.
Yeah.
In Hispanic countries, and what I think is happening here is that more women are. I mean, there was a study. Morgan Stanley did a study not too long ago that said that by 2030, between ages 18 and 44, 45 of the population of women are gonna be single. And childless.
And cats.
Yeah.
I mean,
wine.
And wine, yep.
I mean, that's very good for the economy in certain industries, but it's awful for humanity.
Yeah, it is. I agree with you. Wow. Great insight and great, actually.
Yeah.
I love when you talk about different cultures, look at it and see what they're doing that way. So,
Yeah.
Dana, what you got?
Yeah.
You said I agree.
Yes, I definitely agree with the statement. This is the kind of stuff I love to talk about. So, yeah, I mean, men are becoming weaker and women are becoming more manly. And I mean, this is intentional, right? Like, there's birth control in the water, and there's xenoestrogens in our food, and porn and OnlyFans and video games are just available at your disposal, at your fingertips, and everything that a man does is labeled as toxic. Right? And like that's on purpose, because if you can make men weak, you can control society, and everything always comes back to control. And so when I talk about this pretty much every time too, when men become weaker, and when I'm saying weaker, I mean, I'm kind of correlating that with becoming like more feminine, right? Everybody carries some masculine and everybody carries some feminine in themselves. Yeah. But the rule is that men tend to be masculine. The rule is that women tend to be feminine. There are exceptions to that rule, but the rule is that is how it goes. Mm-hmm. And so if men start to act more feminine, that gets them like closer to center, right? And if women start to act more masculine, that gets them closer to center. Yeah. And that's really, really bad for polarity in terms of relationships. Yep. Because in order for relationships to actually work, in order for the home to actually work, you have to have your complementary opposite. You have to have that strong masculine man, and you have to have that strong feminine woman. And when you get close to center, you're depolarizing each other, and that's just not attractive.
That's not going to work.
No, it doesn't work, because you start to like repel each other. That's not attractive. Yep. Strong masculine men don't like masculine women, and feminine women don't like feminine men. And if they say that they do, they're completely lying. Okay, the most unattractive man is like the one who's going to yoga class and is talking about being vegan. Like, that's very, very unattractive, right? It just is.
I'll stop doing that.
Yeah, you should. And so, and we can talk forever probably about why it's happening and how it's happening and all the avenues by which it's happening. But one thing that I always come back to when I'm thinking about masculine and feminine and like how it's being infiltrated in our culture is like our food supply, and is what happens in terms of nutrition. Because there's this very famous nutrition study. It's called Pottinger's Cats. I know that you know it. You guys maybe remember me talking about it. But basically there was a doctor named Francis Pottinger, and this was back in the 1940s, 30s, whatever, a long time ago. And he was actually studying tuberculosis, and he was using cats as his test subjects. But this turned into a nutrition study, because what happened was, while he was studying tuberculosis, he had this group of cats, and then the town found out about what he was doing, and they wanted to contribute to that, right? Because that was a big deal at the time. And so before he knew it, he had more cats than what he knew what to do with, and he could really only afford to feed his original group. And he was feeding them cooked milk and cooked food. And so he got this second group of cats, and the local butcher was like, all right, you can have my like raw meat and my, like my scraps and stuff. And so he took that and he kept his group separate, right? So you had a cooked food group, you had a raw food group. I mean, there were really more than two groups, but for today, you had these two groups. And so what he noticed then over time, because you can see generations of cats a whole lot faster than you can see like generations of humans, but what he noticed over time is that every cat that was in the raw food group did super, super well, because cats are supposed to eat raw food. That's how that goes. Yeah. And he noticed that they thrived. They were very fertile. They were playful. Their skulls and their mouth, like they were all formed correctly, and they could land on their feet easily, and they just didn't really have problems, right? Because they were eating the exact food that they are supposed to be eating. And then when you looked at the other group, the group of cats that was eating the cooked food and the cooked milk, they were just completely degenerating. And after a couple generations, they couldn't even reproduce anymore. So they were having fertility problems. Their skulls were smaller. Their jaws were smaller. They had trouble landing on their feet. They were having stillborn babies. But the big thing, and why I'm like telling the story, is that he noticed that in that group of cats, the females became aggressive and the males were acting docile. And gosh, I wonder where we're seeing this. Like, has anybody walked into a middle school lately? Yeah. Like, the girls all have girlfriends, and the boys don't even have the balls to ask the girls out, right? Yeah. And so we're seeing this all over culture. And the thing is that study is just being mirrored in humans. It's just like I said before, that you can see generations of cats very quickly. Right now, we're getting to like the third generation of Pottinger's cats, because it took about a couple generations to really see like the full degeneracy. Yeah. And you can turn all that around. It just takes like 3 or 4 generations to be able to turn it around. So we as humans have a whole lot of work to do. But my point there is that what's happening to our food supply is directly affecting how people behave in terms of a masculine and feminine way. It's not just, other things that are going on in culture. It's also what we're putting into and onto our bodies. So yes, men are becoming weaker and women are becoming more manly. I also will add that when men start to be weaker or they start to act more feminine, women will naturally just start to act more masculine because women have to do that. They don't have a choice. Yeah. We have to do that because we have to be our own man. Yeah. And so that is happening out in culture, and we're seeing it everywhere. And yes, and we talk about how out in society that has to be a masculine place, and how society has to be run in a masculine way, and that's true. So women largely have to act like men when they go to work, and that does make sense. But it can be hard then to flip that feminine switch when you go home, or to be able to give up that masculine when you go home and let someone else make those other decisions. But the thing is if you have that strong masculine, because I think it does start with the men. Women have to do their part. Everybody has to do their part. But men do lead. And so if you don't have that strong masculine, it's hard for that feminine to give up her masculine. But really what women want to be able to do is to relax in their feminine nature. So yes, this is happening, and I am the woman at the table. So I also will just say that on behalf of all women, to all the men, please protect us, because none of us actually want to be men. We don't want to act like that.
Is that your BSBC tip for this episode?
It is my BSBC tip. Stop acting masculine, relax in your feminine, and men, please protect us.
Well,
that's my
quick
tip.
question though, and Travis, and Lorenzo will get you next on this, but would you agree with me? I mean, I'll make a statement. Don't you think by nature femininity is more relaxing than masculinity?
It is because you get to turn. I was just watching this reel, and it was this couple who was walking through the airport, and the caption was point of view. I get to turn my brain off and let my husband make all the decisions, and it's the two of them walking through, and it basically the narrative shows their thoughts, and he's looking for okay, the exit's over here, and we have to go to this gate, and that guy looks a little bit sketchy, okay, and we're only 3 feet, whatever, and thinking about protecting the woman, and then I don't know, some random weird song is just playing in the feminine's head because she just gets to do whatever she wants to do. And women, that's what women do want to do, because we do want men to make the decisions and to be taking on all those masculine roles, because that is exhausting, and that's not even what we were built to do. I mean, men may be becoming weaker, but women having to act more manly, that is actually making women weaker, because that's not how we're supposed to act.
Make them sick. I've been saying that for 25 years is if women have to take on roles that put high stress on their body, it throws them off and makes them sick. When I spoke at a conference last week, we talked about it. You saw me. The women just resonated when I said, ladies, you ever been so stressed out that you skipped or delayed your cycle? And they're like, oh my goodness, doc, that's happened so much. I'm like, yes, because that battle mentally and physically you go through is going to lead to that. So great insight, Dana. Travis, what you got for us?
All right. So I wrote down a list of words, but I'll just kind of go through them one at a time. Any of you seen the original Mary Poppins?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Amazing.
Great movie. It really is. But I was watching it the other night.
Hey!
Yes. So my wife and I, every once in a while, we'll get nostalgic and we'll put on an old movie. We'll start with the 90s or go older.
Yep.
And we decided, I just want to make the girls happy. And actually, I sparked the idea from you because you said you're going to do the whole Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, it's great. I'm going to see number 4 tonight with the girls.
Oh, it's
my daughters.
That's awesome. So we were watching that the other night. We didn't finish it. It's 2.5 hours. But my point of telling that this part is I was watching the mother walking up, all bubbly, all excited, wearing her banner like she was going for Miss America. And it said something like women's rights or something. And she came into the house all excited, just bursting with pride. And I'm going, oh my gosh, this has been going on for a super long time. Mm-hmm. And the word I wrote down is indoctrination. Do women have... should they have rights? I'm not arguing that. My point is, we've been programmed to start making women stronger, okay, through indoctrination. The women's movement, right? Fill in the blank. There's so many organizations now, and that's not helping the man's case right now. Our educational system, our public school system is on the fritz, and that's just me being nice. Through indoctrination, teaching people about toxic masculinity. When it's not, it's just called being a man. But we're telling people it's toxic, therefore I can't do it anymore. Therefore I have to be weaker. Again, I looked at microaggressions. This one I'll give a quick example. I used to be
hear that word.
I know. I used to be a youth pastor, and during that time we had a guest, and she was a very sweet girl. She was 16 or 17, so she wasn't like a 6th grader. She was in high school, had a brain, or you would think. And I kindly just asked her not to do something.
Yep.
And she looked at me and she would not stop staring at me, as if I was the devil himself.
You said
And
something
I
very
can
traumatic
tell,
for her.
I can tell immediately that she's never heard a
No.
strong
No.
voice, the word no, and just the tone of my voice scared the crap out of her, which tells me she has not been parented, nothing. I mean, so, man bad, woman good. You can just tell. And she never came back, right?
Yeah.
And here's the real, I think it's kind of a sneaky one, but it's not if you really think about it. Divorce rates. What happens to a woman when you have kids? All right, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt at this point. Let's just say you're married, you have kids, and you get divorced. That woman is forced to become a man or have masculine qualities until their life is reset. And I think.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Reset by what?
A man.
Man.
There you go.
There you go.
A different man.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
still going to have to reset. They feel like they reset after they get another.
Man. Yes.
Side
And-
note, even if they get a woman, somebody still has to be masculine, somebody still has to be feminine, so they still have to be reset by the masculine.
Bingo, and their
Side
divorce
note.
rates are even worse than ours. But I really believe the woman. I know my wife was married and divorced, had a kid before me, and I had to slowly train her that you can trust a man. She was forced to do everything on her own, so carry the feminine and masculine qualities for that household, her and her daughter, and I had to help her do the Yoda, unlearn what you have learned, through, and it took time. But women, I think, are forced to do that. I can go very deep into this, but I believe that's the one thing I'm going to give them a little bit of a pass on because they're doing the best they can with what they have to work with.
Yeah.
But really, if you really look at the first things I said in that list, it probably led you to that divorce to begin with by believing in that bullshit. So, but that is what I put down, and it's to reasons why men are weaker. Therefore,
I can say I absolutely love today. Everyone, you guys have had really good long explanations
I
today.
know. This is
All right,
that was the
Lorenzo,
longest
let's
I
hear it,
ever
man.
talked.
I love it. Listen,
Lorenzo
I love it.
always has the longest
I've
speeches,
actually
it's
I've actually wrote a bunch of notes for everyone, you
Yeah.
guys, and I'm gonna come back around this.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
Nice.
I'm massively enjoying you guys' insight. Keep going, Lorenzo. What you got for us?
So I like going last because I get to
Nice.
write down
Yeah,
everything based
me
off
too.
of what people say. And so the first thing I had wrote down was one of the things that I had noticed, and I always talk about this woman. I always bring her up on this show. I always talk about Shahrazad Ali and how in 1990 she wrote the book, The Message to the Black Woman, and how in that book she talks about how the black culture itself has become the blueprint for how American culture will be. And so she points out how the black culture adopted womanism before white women adopted feminism.
Okay.
They adopted womanism.
Okay.
And womanism and feminism was out there, right? It's just that most white women who were like still in the house, Peggy Bundys, and they were like, nah, I'm not with that. But it was a lot of black women who bought into womanism because it empowered black women, or they believed that it empowered them. And so they presented people like Angela Davis. And we all know her with the big afro.
Yep.
But she's a lesbian, right? And no one really knew that until the 90s, right? Because that was still taboo in the black community, the gay stuff. So it wasn't like something that you could just, she's gay. And if people were going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm still with it. It was going to be like, I didn't know she was out there like that. No, I'm good. But then around the 1990s, it became more of this whole black women need to go do for themselves. So movies like TV shows like Living Single, right? TV shows that showcase corporate black women. However, the television shows in black communities still showcase something that was very strange. I didn't understand what was going on. No black mothers, all black fathers. The black mother either be gone, or she still is like very docile in the home, or she's dead. But there's all these black fathers. The black father is still the leader. But the message to the community is get these men out of here. Now, it's been that message since the 60s. Mm-hmm. Get them out of here. Get them out of this family. Get them out of here. And Shahrazad Ali pointed that out. But one of the things that became interesting was how white communities, because white people obviously were not always white until 1960, but white communities, you weren't, no? It's very true. White people weren't white until the 1960s. It's very true. Before, it was all religion.
Yep.
Right? You were Catholic.
It's big religion.
You were Lutheran.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then John F. Kennedy gets elected, and now you all are white. Yep. Everybody was encompassed into one.
Yep.
Even Spanish people, white.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes. but with when white America started buying into feminism, they also started buying into this crazy version of anti-man thinking.
Yes.
And it's been in television. So television has been grooming people since the 60s. It's been grooming the boomers, Generation X, the hippies, the millennials, and it's trailing off now, but now it's social media. But what it has done is it taught people every father is like Homer Simpson. Unless he's black, then he's Bill Cosby. And it was interesting how they kept showing you fathers who are inept. He's an idiot. He's some kind of some dolt. Modern Family. The older father is strong, but when you realize that he was married to, he was weak also. Yeah. Right? And then the daughter is strong. She's like a boy. Yep. He has a gay son. Then he has a weak son-in-law. Right. And then all of his kids, in my opinion, are all weak. They're all just weak. Right? So they've raised these weak children. But this is exactly what they wanted. You pointed out, and Dr. Flynn asked you about the Caribbean culture. And I was just thinking about Haitians and Venezuelans, right? So we're bringing in Haitians and Venezuelans. They don't share this culture. They don't share this, the man is not in charge. They don't share this culture. Nope. So, but what I believe is starting to happen is something that you pointed to, how the youth, right? So now it's a newer group that is becoming immersed in the culture of America. Yeah. So they're seeing these women on TV who seem to be very strong because I have a fake butt, or my breasts are fake, or I'm getting all this empowerment from my body. But this is not empowerment, it's all faux. Right? But they believe that this is true because they see these women, they think they're getting all this money. Social media is showing them men are falling all over themselves. It's people fawning over them. They're
independent.
Right. They're all independent with a man's money. With some man's money. They're all independent with some man's attention. They're all independent with some man's car. The best ones is, have you ever seen the gold digger videos? Yeah. The ones where the guys are out there, they're like they'll be in like regular attire or nothing, like don't even look like they got a job. Oh, and then the girls will be like, nah, I don't want to talk to you. And then the guy will get into his Lamborghini. And then you just see how this woman she comes back. Not to him, but to the car. But this is her independence, right? This is her being independent. This is her strength. Her strength is in this man. However, she's going to tell everybody, he ain't shit. I'm using him. I'm getting what I need to get from him. Still, you're not independent. But we have also changed what it means to be independent. You see, there are people asking for reparations. They look like me. And they want to say that that's independence. I will have all the independence I need. Financial independence, full rights as a black person. Once I get you to give me some of your money, then I will be independent. So and I said this in a couple of episodes ago, we're transitioning into different people. It's not just the Transformers who are transitioning, we're transitioning. We're transitioning our words, we're transitioning our thinking. So no longer do we feel the same way about how to gain independence. Now independence is through somebody else. You should get me independence. I shouldn't have to work for this independence. It's not on me. Something that you brought up. You brought up the movements, all the civic organizations. So I'm gonna take you back. So this is what's interesting. In 1910, there was the anti-suffragette movement, a group of women who were against the suffrage movement. Yep. One of the things that they pointed out, and they said, what will happen if women have the right to vote is they will neglect their feminine duties in the home. They will then also usher in socialism. There's no choice because women don't see the world the same way men do. Right. That's what you're seeing happening right now. That's why the culture. So I have to disagree with you. I believe that it is the culture of America at this point to create this Marxist culture because, of course, we know that Hegel is a theologian. Marxist comes from the left school of Hegel. He hates God. So that hating of God has led to Marxist thinking about hating all authoritarian figures. Women see men as the authoritarian figure. So the ceiling is always masculine.
But that's an ideology, Marxism.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It is an ideology, but it's now becoming the culture of America, right? At one point in time, it was just an ideology. Now, these people they believe this. They were born into Marxism, so they believe in They have faith in Marxism.
Well, they were born into the idea, but they don't know what it is. I know what it is.
Exactly. And that's the thing, because they don't know what it is. They have bought into the belief, and so they have a faith in this, almost like how people feel about religion, which is part of the reason why religion is dying. Is because people don't have faith. I can't imagine being faithful to a God when there's so much oppression out there that I need to stop as a social justice warrior. I am God. That's what I think a lot of these people think also. I am God. I am the creator of my own personal hubris. I'm the creator of your hubris. I am God to you too. And I think that they feel like they are God. They won't say it because they still fear God, which is strange. You don't believe in them, but you fear them. But they do believe that they are equal to God. I am just as God-like as God is. And that's another problem, because that comes from a feminine spirit.
So I have a question for you guys, because you all hit on something, and I want to get a little bit more detail on this, because I think we can get to speaking on abstracts instead a little bit more, because you guys kind of all hinted towards the fact, and you started this on there, and Dane, you went a little bit more of it, and Travis, you all touched on it that way. You talked about some of the switch is intentional, that there's a purpose behind it. So I want to get you guys give me examples of what you think because let's say this, like as a person, as a leader of a big company, and coming from nothing and building wealth and stuff like that, the intentionality always has to be something good at the end. Do you understand? I'm saying that, like, I want to pay people really well. I want to have a good living. I want to provide for my family. I want to do things I want to input people's lives that way. So you guys all hinted a little bit that this kind of shift in ideology and culture and stuff like that has some intentionality behind it. So then, what's their end game? And what do you think? Remember, I'm inquisitive because I think we're all agreement on that. But I want to see what you think the end result of the game is. End result of putting this into people's place and making men weaker and creating it like people like
it's what Dana says.
Yeah.
It's control. It's 100% control. It's the best way of doing it. So
what's the aspect to control? Is it to control your money, control your daily activity? I want to know. I want to know. I want to hear feedback.
All of it.
So give me some feedback on that.
There's too many areas that are still independent for people to actually make their own decisions. The goal is to make everyone childlike, so that the government or the powers that be, whatever this may be, because I personally think globalism is what is the next wave. 100 years ago, we had nationalism, but it was always leading into globalism. I don't want to go into the group that I believe is doing this or why this is happening.
Yeah. They're called elite tyrant fucks, remember?
Soy
okay. All right, we can call them that if you want to.
That's my favorite term.
That's not what I would call them, though. They go by another name.
Did you ever see you hinted upon this on two things. Did you ever see the video? It's a very disturbing video, not a joke. Do you ever see the interview of George Soros talking to him that he believes that he is God-like God and some of that? You talk about
that is. Yep. I'm telling you right now.
It's a scary. It's his words
right now.
Yeah,
I lost my job. I had just lost my job working for the governor of Illinois. Right, they had just laid me off. And I was watching that. It was a Glenn Beck interview. Okay. Right? And then I watched the one with him on 60 Minutes, with George Soros on 60 Minutes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And when this man said, well, what is God? He sees all, and no one knows that he sees them. I see everything, and no one knows that I see it. He says he has control over everything, yet he stays hands off and lets people think they make decisions. Yep. Well, I have control over everything through open world. So, and I let people make their own decisions through the money that I through my funding. And when I heard that, I was like, this is pure manipulation at its finest. And he's in everything. I mean, everything. Black Lives Matter, Antifa. Then he goes around and he's supporting the Catalonians and the Spaniards. Yep. Then he's going and supporting Hong Kong and China. Right. Then, this guy gets it. And it's interesting to me that nobody sees the Trojan horse is the woman. They are using her to get people to buy into the idea. It always has worked. You get the women to do it, and then you get the women to promote the idea. It's similar to like the Spike Lee movie that's actually based off of the Italian play. I forget what the Italian play, Lucretia or something. But the movie was called Chirac. So in the movie, the women stopped having sex with the men so that they will stop killing each other in the streets of Chicago. And that was supposed to end the violence. Now, this didn't come. I think the women are supposedly coming up with this, but in the original play, it's like the government is coming up with this. They figured we could end all the violence, end all the problems. We can make the men more docile if the women stop mating with them. So it's the same thing that's happening now, right? We empower the women. They don't know what to do with all this power. They don't know what to do with all this control. They need, it's the analogy of Atlas having the earth in his hands. If Earth is the woman and Atlas is the man, the moment that he drops that motherfucker, she's just in space, just floating around from Saturn to this planet to that planet. I don't know where I belong until Atlas grabs her ass again and says, I got you, right? So it's the same situation here. She doesn't know what the fuck she's doing. This is why she shouldn't be fucking driving. She doesn't know where she's
I was
going.
waiting for one of those.
And so because of this is all this confusion. And so when she has to lead the future, they are led in confusion. And when there is confusion, that leads to delusion, and there is no solution.
I think the control is more like it comes in stages, right? And the main issue right now is the family. You make a man weaker, and then you're dividing the family, and
kids
then,
think that's normal because that's what they see then.
Yeah.
If they see the strong mom and the dumb dad.
Yeah.
and then you apply what you said, the division, of course, of 1 week and the other they go completely opposed. And then the control is control, the economic control in the end, and power. Like I'm gonna tell you what's happening in Cuba right now is childbirths are completely down.
Really?
There's like nobody has it's having kids in Cuba, barely, and everybody is dependent on the government. Surviving. It's not even living. It's surviving. You know, it's what am I gonna eat tomorrow, and that is complete control. You know, I hear people here saying, "Oh, the 1% controls everything," and then they support Marxism and socialism. And well, in Cuba, it's the same thing. The 1% controls everything, but the population is starving and dying. I mean, we are 3 times the size. Cuba is 3 times the size of the island of Haiti and Dominican Republic. And there's not even 10 million people in Cuba anymore. And in the Dominican Republic, just the side of the Dominican Republic, there's 10 million people.
Got her.
So you can understand how depopulated the island is, and people have no escape. So in the end, the 1% controls everything. Obviously, they have the economic power, the government control, and that's what leads to. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, this Marxism and socialism it's the communism is the great thing if it's done right." Yeah, but it only takes one bad person.
One.
Yeah.
I think of there was a place I've always wanted to visit. It was Australia. I always wanted to go there. Just all the sharks down on the south end. Just see Sydney. I don't know. It looks
You
beautiful
just
out
want
there.
to use an accent.
Yeah.
That's all you want.
I want
to
to
do.
say, give me a Foster's Australia for beer.
That's
That's all he wants.
But
That's
then-
why I'm calling it out. Like you.
But here, a few years back, actually probably more, like almost 10 years now, they had a weapons buyback
Oh yeah.
happen,
I remember that.
right? And now they're all a bunch of weak bitches. And during COVID, they were in concentration camp looking things. They were what are those homes, the little trailer homes, whatever. And they're all sitting there waiting for their gruel. Their words, not mine. I watched the recordings of these people on the Facebook Live thinking they're all taken care of. And I'm saying that because you needed weak men to create those hard times.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, how weak are you if you think that you're having a good time with your free iPhone, and you get your gruel every day? I mean, it's about creating a weaker society so that you can control them. I think, was it Doc or someone said, or maybe it was you, someone said, we're trying to dumb us down to the children so we are that compliant, we don't push back. That's what happened in Australia. And, they're trying to do that here. But thankfully, our Constitution stands a lot stronger than theirs.
I hope so.
They bent over
I just
backwards.
moved here. I don't want to leave.
I don't know. There's that. If you get more AOCs
Oh yeah.
into office, we won't have a constitution.
Or cow farts.
But there is a point. Here's what happens.
right.
There's the difference of it this way is like, a lot of people across the world before COVID hit, they always talked about they have freedom, they have this. But then COVID really did show there was only one country that truly had the closest freedom, and that was the United States. United States falls on what we have a backbone on. The rest of the world's screwed. You saying? Because it is true. Because the one thing about, let's go to Canada, let's go to Ireland, my home country. Okay, get this. Now Ireland is adopting Canada's things to where they just passed a law that if you even talk about something, you're going to prison.
Yeah.
You're right about something. Your free speech as far as, and see, if you think of it this way, it's really, and if you look at it this way, a lot of the constitutions out there resemble the United States with the exception of one amendment. The first, and also the second. But you get the point. It was like, and I was thinking about this because obviously you guys know I love the Constitution, and it was almost like the founding fathers said, listen, for the 5 parts of the First Amendment, it's like that's really the backbone. That's why it was number 1. And then if that was violated, they went to number 2.
Yeah, exactly.
You saying? And the rest of them don't even matter. It would say are very important, but 1 and 2 are the basis of everything. Going 1 protects us from everything. And then the only way we have to keep 1 around is number 2. You think about that.
Yeah, it reminds me of something because I thought about that when I moved here. I moved in the middle of the pandemic in July of 2020, and you know, we came through Florida. Of course, we stayed in Florida for a couple of days, and then flew to Chicago, which was empty. The airport was just empty, nobody there, and then we drove to Wisconsin, and I saw the contrast. Right. I just arrived, and I see like, okay, well, Wisconsin is, people are going to the supermarkets, the restaurants. There's no COVID here. But then you go, you know, to Madison or Milwaukee, and everybody's shut down and scared, and it was the same thing. But what I liked was the contrast of different states and how different states, you know, applied either the rules or whatever, and that takes me to something else. I lost my my thought, but what I'm saying is, you know, it's important to have that because in the Dominican we were closed completely. You couldn't go anywhere. You had to wear a mask. They were letting an amount of people to go to the supermarket to go in. You had to wait long lines. It was insane. And here I just felt like the freedom right away. As soon as I arrived, and here in Wisconsin, and the next day we went to have dinner in Manitowoc, and I was like, there's no COVID here.
There was no COVID in Manitowoc.
No, there was not with those people.
No, you guys sparked a thought I had because, you know, including Dana, we were at an event that was dominant by women that way, but you guys would kind of hit on this, and I was actually happy, but I was always very critical of the guys being there, not being there. You saying because there. Like, but on the flip side, if you think of it this way, it's like going, you know, any situation, if you do look and you guys hit on it, and it made me think about this, if you think the fact that you talk about, and you guys hit on it a little bit this way, if you can manipulate emotions, you can control people and you can get them to go. And exactly, you guys kind of hit on a little bit, and I want to bring that a little bit. You're right. And on the flip side, you're going to have women get very emotional and say, no, listen, you guys got to follow the pandemic. And then you have women that get not really emotional and say, no, you shouldn't follow it that way. And if there was a strong man that said, listen, if we just base it on the freedom of choice and what we really stand for, you're right. All government people do. If you ever watch their speeches, and I've said this before, and I believe that now here's how it is. I believe government can be extremely good if we do follow a good constitution and not let emotions get in and things like that. I also believe that churches have changed dramatically, that they're speaking to a female instead of a strong male audience. That's why I believe, this is me personally, I believe Christianity that's my faith, and so I believe it's beautiful. I believe it's a great message, but I think you're right. It's been feminized, and so therefore that's why guys don't really go to church anymore, because you don't have a pastor up there really speaking to men and how to lead and be what I believe Christ-like would really be like, and I think I'm saddened the fact that our language has so shifted that the minute that because I agree, you know, we talked about this. I have a wonderful HR department, but if it wasn't for female characteristics, I don't think we'd need an HR department. Right. You know, so just what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Right. Well, like you said that Trojan horse thing before, and that they're using women for that, and I'm like, well, yeah, like obviously because women are so easy to manipulate because women think with their emotions, which is what we've talked about many episodes. But when you bring that also back to like the masculine and the feminine, like logic is like that's a masculine characteristic. It doesn't mean women can't have that, but it just means it doesn't come as easily. The emotions come a whole lot more easily, and that's why it's so easy to manipulate those women. And I mean, just even look at what's going on now. Like logic people, like how many people are mad that you want to ban TikTok, but you're not mad that they're not banning the illegals? Like, come on. It doesn't even make any sense.
How about this? When New York, and now California has done this, when New York passed that act that said that you can now prosecute men for sex crimes, no matter the statute of limitations, but for monetary reasons. And so when it happens and the media promotes this, they say, oh, another celebrity man caught doing something to a woman 30 years ago. And so you hear this and you just think predatory men, but you don't know the act is only for money. It is only for civil gain. This woman has not gone to the police to want to press any charges against this man. She doesn't want criminal justice. She would like financial justice.
Yes.
So your pussy comes with a price tag then, bitch. And you think as you get older, it's like wine. That motherfucker just got more expensive because it was free 30 years ago. Now it's goddamn 30,000. What the hell happened to his vagina? But you see, I know it did. And you and I both know that is not the case because the bacteria in that vagina is seeping into the brain and ruining the women. I'm a doctor. 3 out of 4 doctors have said it, so we all prescribe that women need to get themselves checked all the time. Yeah. But that right there, it has led to all of it is unfortunate how we are trying to do this thing where we are trying to tell women empowerment is by hurting men. It is not by you going out and doing things that are either.
Let me pause you on that because I want you guys to give me, and I want you guys to give me a statement on this. But because you guys have said this word a bunch. What does empowerment mean?
Right.
See, I mean, think of this.
Yeah.
What does it really mean? Because do you
what does it mean?
I want each one of your answers. What do you think? Because it's empower. Okay, what does that mean? Does that mean you have control? No, see, because I ask women, I say, I feel empowered. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Is it just a thought in your head that? So I'm not going to answer. But what do you think empowerment means? That they're like we empower. Okay, tell me what that means. Let's get down to the action and the result of it. What do you think that means?
I think it's having the opportunity to. Having equal rights, of course.
But don't we already have that under the law?
Yeah.
Right.
But some women think that you have to tell them that. I don't know.
Yeah. But see, is it weird? Like, I'm
empowered.
empowered. So
it's
feelings.
Okay, Daniel, you think
it's all based on feel? I'm not saying empowerment's a bad thing, but when you feel empowered,
I want to correct you on the statement because I love you guys know I love definitions. But then what does that mean? Right. What's the result by saying I'm empowered? Okay, what is it?
Well, then she who feels like they do have some control, at least like over themselves, or they do actually like feel power, and people like to have power. It doesn't matter who it is, but people like to have power. But the thing is now we're getting all these women who have all this power, and they're not going to want to give it up. But the thing is, they think with their feelings. So what's really going on, and how is this benefiting our culture?
But let's go this. What power?
Yeah, what power?
That's what you really come down to.
I'll say it's nothing.
That's my point. It's really
nothing. I'll look at this. I'll get this is the best example of faux empowerment I have ever heard. Right. So let's just bring it back to my black ass for a moment. Right. I have heard my entire life how important it is that black people are seen in certain positions of power because then the rest of us know we can do that. Well, since I've been 7, a black man has been a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
He does not get credit for being a Supreme Court justice because an R is next to his name.
Right. He gets
attacked. Yeah. So forget him, right? Mm. Don't look at him. Right. He's not the black guy we want you to look at. But that's empowering, right? I thought this was about if I see a black man in that position or a black person, then I should be able to be Supreme Court justice too. Which is also interesting to me is, so did empowerment start in the 1990s? Because Thurgood Marshall was the first black Supreme Court justice. Were no Negroes empowered then? They were all like, well, I don't know. I mean, he looks black. Well, I don't really. I mean, what happened, right? So how about all those women who had businesses, who owned businesses, who were long before the suffrage movement, they were able to vote because they were business owners and they were taxpayers. Yeah. No, that wasn't empowering the women to get into maybe I should start trying to own land. Yeah. Maybe that'll get me the right to vote. No. Empowering is when you see me go and cast my ballot with my dress on, you know that we've arrived. We've done it. So now they're doing the same thing to homosexuals, the same thing to trans people, the same thing to the Hispanic community, and soon enough, it will be Haitians and our new immigrants that will be coming in the next 20 years, Indians.
But wouldn't you agree with me on this? Would you guys agree with me on this? Don't you think empowerment and the way they're talking about it actually reduces competition and betterment of society?
Yeah.
Because okay, so you see this minority person or ever person do this way, and it's like going. Okay, and they're going, yes, we have empowerment. Like, wait, that means you're not competing for what you really want in life. And so it's like, so you throw like the whole Biden's lesbian black girl who's the spokesperson and stuff like that. It's like but wait, she's cute. Don't you want don't you want the best person up there? So empowering somebody just based on culture, race, things like that. If I'm a business person, because the president's still a business if you think about it that way, I would want the best person up there, not based on culture, but based on competition, speaking ability, communication, the ability to persuade, things like that. So I think the aspect of empowerment takes away good competitive nature being the best.
Yeah.
See, so I just don't understand. That's why people say, I'm empowered. What do you mean?
No, what I was going to say is what you said. Women have been empowered Madame Curie created. There you go. You know. There you go. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people throughout history. It's just that with the movements that started to use this word, like empowerment, you just use it to control. The same thing. Yep. It's just to divide and control. It's divide and conquer all the time.
It just probably makes women feel good. Everything's about feelings. That's just what it is. It's not an actual authority.
It's the same thing with abolitionism. Mm-hmm. So here are all these rich whites who come from slave families. Their kids is going to tell all these blacks, come on to the North and be free. And then as soon as you get up here, they say, oh, you know what? You're going to need to work. Because where you going to live? And how you gonna live? You got no place to live? You can live with me. Hey, why don't you pick that up for me and take it over there? And when you get done, do that 5 more times. And then go outside and shovel that snow. Here's a shovel. I didn't feel like doing it today. But you know what? You staying here, and this is the least I could do for you since I helped you get up here. Right? You want to get to Canada, right? So you can be really free, right? Well, go on out there and tend to that field for me. You good at that. Isn't that what you was doing down there? Well, get your ass out there and do it here. Oh, and we fighting for your freedom. I just want you to know we care about you so much. You're doing that wrong. Don't do it like that. But this is the same thing that they did then. And they wrote books, and they were able to control the minds of the government, and they were able to control the minds of people, and had people thinking, that's slavery, man. Every plantation, they're just killing them. Oh, so they're buying these people and then killing them for sport. So they're just purchasing people just to kill them.
Most dangerous game.
So they don't need them to work. So they don't need them to work at all. They're like, I don't need these people. I'll go out there and do it myself. I don't need these people to work. I'm just killing them for sport. I'm just beating them for sport. I'm just putting them in the hot box because today is hot box day. It's just hot box day. So let's put like 3 of them in the hot box and see what happens. Really? This is interesting. So you don't want to make money. And this is the concept that they've given to people, but this all starts with this effeminate way of looking at history. Because you can't look at history from this is what happened, this is what it is. You may not agree with how these things went down. You may not agree with the culture of the time, but this is what it was. I always used to shut people up with this when they would say things about slavery. I would say, it's interesting. Today, smoking cigarettes is bad. And people are like, yeah, and I'm like, and it's terrible. We know how terrible it is, right? Well, just 100 years ago, everybody was smoking cigarettes. And they were telling you, it's the cool thing to do.
The doctors did it.
I remember there's a Jet magazine article from 1960 where the black people are complaining because they can't be in cigarette ads. Well, 2019, what did they say? It's racist to sell cigarettes to blacks.
Yep. Well, it's funny because I was thinking about this because obviously I'm a I'm an anti-regulation kind of person that way. And, you know, it's like 100 years ago, you didn't have to ask a person to go fishing. You didn't have to go shoot a deer. You didn't have to, you know, cut hair. My sister she's a beautician. When she started, they didn't have any licensure for it. Now it's like, and so I said they're always putting regulations on to like the things that you do. It's like, but you're free. You know what I'm saying? It's like going, it's funny how those things have changed so much that way. So now, and you guys brought this point too, is
well, just so you know, that's another thing that came from that beautiful Civil War, that reducing the ability for those with skills, primarily blacks and immigrants, from being able to utilize those skills and make whatever money you want. So we're gonna make you have licenses, and we're gonna put in place a minimum wage. Yep, exactly.
Now I want you to think about this, because I think this is what has made me as successful in business and even just relationships that way. Is, you know, we talked about this a lot, and I think this comes up with a lot of women too. You know, I've had this conversation with women that obviously have a different viewpoint than me, but I like to talk to them and get their viewpoints and stuff. And it's like, you know, as a man, when I was broke, and my dream was always to have a wife and family and kids and things like that. And then as I started to get money, I said, hey, listen, I'm starting to get money. I can take care of a wife and kids. You know, yet if the modern woman today, that if you give them a bunch of money, they're like, I don't need a man.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And see, and I've never, and I honestly tell you this, because I did this to my company one time. I said, raise your hand if you think I'm an independent man. And you were there. I'm like, and no one raised their hand, because the concept of independence, you know, yes, you have individual freedoms, but as far as like for me to even do this thing. We're not an independent podcast.
Right.
Travis behind there that nobody sees on camera, we're dependent on him.
Yeah.
Right. And stuff like that. So anything, you know, and I like some funny stuff. I don't want to have independent sex. You know what I'm saying? I'm very codependent on that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
It's like, I agree, see? No, but so this concept of, it's like, it's always here, this women about being independent. I'm like going, I'm a wealthy businessman that's worked hard, capitalism, tried to give a good service. You guys done well, stuff of that. You guys have built wealth and stuff, but it was dependent on other people.
Right.
Yeah.
So the concept of independence, yes, we were trying to take independence from Britain and stuff that was trying to control and make us into stuff and didn't give us the right to say things. But the concept of like separating from a man that you're dependent and like, oh my goodness, look what I can do by myself. I'm like, well, it's not really true, because that means everything from the morning you wake up to even you walk to Starbucks, you're dependent on that barista.
Yeah.
You're not independent. I still cannot go through the day without dependency on so many people through the day.
Well,
So
it's the evolution of it's the transitioning of words. Yeah. Now that's someone's truth that they are independent. So you would be a liar to them.
Yeah,
well, that's my truth. My truth is I'm independent. I make my own coffee, even though that guy makes it for me.
I think you hit an important point there. That's why I think, you know, families, like marriage, it's so important too. I mean, I feel somewhat dependent on my wife.
Yeah.
Many things, and that doesn't make me less of a man.
No.
Right.
And she's not less independent because I am there and I take, you know.
And you protect her? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
horror.
exactly, right? And that's something that I think, I mean, Javier Milei, I don't know if you know this guy. He's the new president of Argentina.
Oh, yeah.
So
who they keep trying to say is radical.
Yeah,
Radical.
extreme right.
Extreme.
Which I don't know why it has to be extreme. I mean, why can't it just be right and that's it?
There is no right.
Well,
It's only
extreme right
only
is MAGA.
extreme.
Because extreme right is
Yeah.
MAGA. You gotta compare him to
Communism
Trump.
is normal. So
But he said something very interesting in an interview not too long ago regarding the family values, marriage, and man and women, and because he disintegrated the Ministry of Gender, whatever, I don't know the name in English, and he said that the cultural battle is what the West have been losing for a long time, and that's where people have to, you know, acknowledge that and start pointing their guns there, you know, to universities and teaching their kids everything, not let them, you know, because I know parenting is hard. You know, you gotta work. You gotta then
very hard.
get home and make the dinner for the baby and change him and all that. But you gotta be on top of that.
Yep.
If you let them be raised by a liberal or a conservative teacher in school, you're gonna lose them.
Yep.
And you might lose them like it's happening now. A lot of kids are on drugs or getting confused with their gender and all that, and all that weakens either the man or the woman and the family.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. It's very true. Yeah.
Dude, my kid was in kindergarten for 1 month and came home and we're having dinner as a family. And we're talking about like being married, right? Because he asked like if dad and I are married, and he asked like if grandpa and grandma are married, right? We're like, he's asking me some questions about figuring that out. And then he's like, well, boys can marry boys and girls can marry girls. And I'm like, well, that's interesting because we have never talked about that before. And while that is true, and I'm not like sheltering my kids from things like that, it was like, well, that's interesting because you got that from school because you haven't gotten that from home. That's not something that we have discussed at home. Yeah. It only took a month of kindergarten to come home with something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because they can do that. They can just start telling your kids all about that lifestyle, and even tell your children, don't go home and tell your parents that we talked about this.
Well,
Right,
it's
right.
like I was watching statistics because obviously being a dad, but I like reading statistics, and they talked about this, and I was watching a statistician talk about this, that child abuse, obviously non-parental, but sexual abuse to a child happens at the closest people's families, but it's not because, like, let's say you have an aunt or somebody that watches your kid that way, and that person might be very, very good, but you don't know the husband, the kids, or the friends, or the friends that they bring over their house when they're over at that house. So they were talking about saying, listen, if you let your child go to another person's house, you either have to put a boundary on the person. So let's say you have a best friend, okay, and your child goes over there, and there has to be a conversation. It was crazy stats on it that if you don't limit that family from allowing other people, their cousin or uncle that could abuse your child, that's where sexual abuse happens in kids.
Okay.
That was crazy. I was like going, so you may even trust that person. Let's say it's your sister, but then your sister has 2 friends that came over and their kids come over, and there's a lot of abuse from other kids that happen that way. And it was at your sister's house. I was like, holy, because I don't let my kids go to other people's houses and stay overnight that way, because obviously girls, sexual abuse is very common.
Right.
And it was like, hey, it's not that you went to some friend you didn't know. It comes to that you may have somebody you trust and would never abuse your kid, but they bring people over to hang out and stuff like that, and they get abused by those people.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness.
It's a lot to have to worry about.
Yeah.
Well, it is, but it's like, but then that's why parameters where I think culture's like, well, you're being a helicopter parent. No, you have your kids for a certain time, and you have a time of protection that where you need to have that way. Because now when they're 18 years old or 19 years old and they're doing their own thing that way, well, now you just got to prepare them to go listen. And I have a very close friend that was raped by a pastor when they're on a mission trip. You understand? Because the parents told them, no, pastors are good. I'm like going, no, you understand? It's like
people.
That's it. It's like put your guard up on those things and stuff like that. So it's like those are culture there. So holy crap, we went long on that one. So we're gonna have to shorten this one, but I want to make a statement. So we'll come back. Any final thoughts on that thing? Because we definitely, that was a great topic. That was a
I didn't have
wonderful
to say
topic.
much.
Really
You guys all
fun.
had good stuff.
Yes, that was
We
fantastic.
weren't talking about guns, so I couldn't share much. No, I was kidding.
Yes, yes.
Don't
Well,
get me started on that.
Yes. Yes. So this one relates to it because I think we can discuss some of the things we talked about today from just an example before. And I'm big on this because I think this has a lot to do. And if you get in the psychology of this one, I think it's going to it changes people's lives because it's made me a different person and a better person by understanding the statement. But so here it is. People judge themselves by their intentions, but others judge you by your actions. Let me say that again. People judge themselves by their intentions, but others judge you by your actions. Now, I can set the premise before you even say I disagree that way, is this. I ask people all the time, have you ever had to say this in response to somebody you cared to? I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah.
Okay? So, because your intentions and your actions didn't match up. And see, we always judge ourselves by intention. So, Renzo, agree or disagree?
Yeah.
It's a thought-provoking one, isn't it?
Well,
Would you say I disagree or agree on that one? Then we'll
I'm
go
gonna
around to
say
you.
I disagree.
Okay, Travis?
I agree.
Dana?
I'll agree.
Ariel?
I agree with statement.
Let's start with you. Let's go. Then then I want to go you, and I want you to go Lorenzo after that. So I want you to start. Give me some feedback.
Because what you said after, it happens to me a lot. And that's in part because of a language barrier.
Okay.
And it happens with my wife a lot.
Yes.
Like I joke around.
Is she from here?
Yeah, she's from New Frank, and she jokes a lot, and I joke a lot too.
Yep.
But the way I say things sometimes, she gets offended, and I'm like, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't say it to hurt your feelings.
But she felt like that was the action, though.
Yeah, exactly. That was the action.
And so she's judging an action, you know?
Yeah.
And so, Lorenzo, what do you got on this one?
I think that I disagree because I think that people have expectations of you, right? So they don't really care what your intent or your actions are. Because I see people who will take negative actions that are done towards them, and they will still find positive in those individuals who did that negative behavior with them, especially if their title is mom, dad, granddad, grandma, boss, president, whatever. They will take bad behavior, bad intentions, and bad actions simply because their expectation of you is to either be bad, which they may not even see as bad. They may expect that and say, well, that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that reaction. Or they will feel like, well, what I would do is this. So I'm okay with you doing that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what people are today. I said this on one of the other episodes because the people are not, they don't care about the community. They care about their own personal hubris. Yep. So if I'm not even upset by what you did, then it's fine with me, right? So, so you robbed like 8 people, but you didn't rob me. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And your intentions were negative. And you told me you were gonna do it before you did it, and you told me how you was gonna do the shit too. You told me all your people you took with you. You didn't rob me though, so
I'm good.
That's what's up, my dude. You know, do your thing. Next time, rob a little for me too, right? You know. And so I think that people's intentions doesn't matter. Now I'll say this: I do think at one point, and I know Travis is gonna probably hit on this, but I do think at one point when people actually feared the religions that they were a part of. When you feared Jesus, when you feared God's wrath, when you feared that there could be a higher power that knows, hey, I know you did that. When you feared that, then you did care about intentions and actions. It was more important then. Now, because people do not care about religion, they are very detached from religion, they care about expectations. So my expectation is this. When you don't meet my expectation, now I'm pissed with you. Now your intentions were evil. I'm going to make up what your intentions were. Your action was evil. You could have done nothing evil. I mean, how many times have you had to probably let somebody go simply because you're just not working out. You're not really the best at your job. Or how many times have you tried to tell somebody, hey, I don't want to let you go. I see you might be best here, but can we have a conversation about it instantly? You're a piece of shit. You're racist, you're a misogynist, because now my expectation was you were just gonna like my half-ass doing the job. What the fuck you mean you don't like me? You don't like me giving you 25%? Racist. Mm-hmm. Racist. That's why. He expects way too much from me. Mm-hmm. And so my expectation was that you were gonna appreciate what I did. But you have a business to run. You don't have time for my 25% nonsense. You need for me to at the least, do I need you to give 75%? C plus, baby. Average. Right. Don't give me Fs and then thinking I'm going to be like, well, it's F minus is better than F minus. So you did good. But I think that people's expectations and trying to, and even anticipating what you're going to say, I'm going to think for you, right? So this is what is the real issue. Your intentions don't even matter or your actions. They don't care.
Travis, what got?
So you actually, good for you. You took a lot of mine, but I really think something I'm working on this year, and you've actually challenged us as a company on this, is time management. And I believe time management will really heal a lot of the intentions versus actions rule. So what does that mean? So if a little small thing on the priority list is happening, but to one person in the building or to your wife at home, that's the most important thing. You know, you got to weigh that out. You got to talk about it. Time management. What do you expect what do you expect from this? Well, what time do you want this done by? I'll give an example. I tell my kids they all have things they have to do around the house, the chores. Braden, got to vacuum. I used to be home, do my thing, working or whatever. I come back, I ain't done yet, and here I am giving them crap later on, going, why haven't you done it yet? Well, I learned. Yep. I have to go. I want this done by 5 p.m. And then now there's an expectation, there's a time management, there's a law rule there that now he's either going to make this or break this, right? And there's been times where he's even started at 4:58. I didn't. He goes, well, you didn't say done by 5.
Yeah.
So
5 o'clock.
Yeah. So I really think the gap in this is time management. It's something that I'm learning to do every single day. It's not easy, but my point is, I think time management really ties together the intention versus the doing. And if you can really manage that and communicate, what you want done and when you want it done by, I think it's going to be a much better. It's an easier thing to do because we're seeing a lot of this happening right now. Because you're right, a lot of people are being judged by what they were supposed to do, not their intentions.
Dana.
Okay, we all have interesting things to say.
I love it. I love all of them.
So,
They're fantastic.
okay, so intention and action. So, I mean, obviously we often judge others because of actions because we can actually see those things and we can't read minds. So we often don't know what intentions are and, just can't quite tell. But when I think about intentions and actions, I think that I'm like, okay, well, actions though, that's like data and evidence that you collect about people over time. And then when something comes to a head or a situation comes up or you're having a conversation, you look to the evidence of what you have for how you're going to proceed in that conversation or what you're going to do about something. I was talking to a friend of mine about this not that long ago, and we were talking and I was like, I think I'm pretty sure that, this is what's going on. And they're like, no. That's not what's going on. I'm like, well, I have evidence of A, B, C, D, E, F, G to prove this is what's going on. And they're like, no, this is actually what's happening. And I'm like, I don't have any evidence to support that at all. And they're like, no, but this is what's happening. And I'm like, I have no evidence to support any of that. All the evidence lies over here. And then obviously once you start to talk about things and you wait a week or two or something like that, okay, I now have a couple data points over here. I now have a couple pieces of evidence. The evidence is overwhelmingly still what I said in the first place, but you judge it based on those actions because some of it does come down to, and I don't mean we need to be this harsh every single time with everybody, but if all the evidence is over here and there's intention over here, then I'm like, well, how am I ever supposed to trust your intention because you didn't act on it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
So there's also, that's like kind of the way that I was thinking about it.
I was thinking when you said expectation, I think even for when you expect something from somebody, they still need to act, right?
Yes.
They still need to make an action. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think that action is what determines if it's good or bad for you. So that's why I agree.
I think what you're saying is, I think the separation between the intention and action is kind of communication.
Yeah.
Because somebody can be consumed with something in their life, and then their actions won't look like that. So then people make judgment to what their intentions are.
And women are really good at that because women make up problems, first of all. But second of all, they also make up all those stories in their head. Like there's an entire narrative of what's going on before anybody knows anything.
Should we go to part 2 of
That's
the
right.
story?
And it's usually a very emotional story with some drama. And guys, it's like simple.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like that happens
simple.
all the time.
It's a very simple and direct
Yes.
with men.
Well,
But women
so-
have an entire story.
So the action thing. So like I take, for instance, like let's take rioting, right? So what people perceive as people acting out of frustration, irritation, right? I don't think that's the case though. With a lot of those rioters, it's opportunity.
Yeah.
Their intentions and their actions are dictating who they are. But you're going to be told that what you're seeing is not the case.
Yeah.
And so, and this has nothing to do with my expectation argument, but it's that whole intention. It can be, you can see that differently. Even the people who are out there, right? If they get swept up in the riot swell, they'll buy into the whole, well, we're doing this because how else are we supposed to get freedom, or how else are we supposed to get our rights, right? So they buy, and so their intentions may be something else, but their actions aren't showing those intentions. They want freedom, right? They don't want this.
Yep.
They don't want their communities to be ruined by this rioting,
Yep.
but their actions are going to eventually lead to a ruined city.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what I was getting. Like, people usually make a mistake and then say, oh, but that's not what I meant to do.
Yeah.
I wanted, in reality, but I made a mistake. You
Yeah.
know, and that's you're you're gonna be judged either way.
Right.
I really-
and
yeah.
even after you tell your intentions, somebody can still say, "Well, I don't believe you."
Yeah.
I
Right,
don't
And
believe
that's-
exactly.
your
Well, and it's
intentions.
all like the context of stuff, right? Because
Yeah.
now we live in social media where you can clip something for a minute,
That's
and
right.
you can see something, and people are looking at that as
Oh,
actions,
man.
and they don't know what the intention, what the context was of
Yeah.
it. Because I ran into that with the video that I have that was really viral on Instagram. So I made this Instagram reel about how when a woman has her period, she should give her man a blowjob. You should check it out and show it to your wife, and, or
Nice
not,
plug.
or gently
will.
suggest it.
I
to-
will.
I don't know who
Never
she
had to
is.
fix a guy twice on that one.
but it wasn't really that, but I did like a longer form like follow up, right? Because like that's just a 1 minute clip. I didn't even get to like
Right.
fully explain the whole entire thing.
Right.
And so even I do that, and then things got clipped from that, and so then I'm hearing from people about like, well, you're saying this, and you know whatever, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, do you listen to me? Do you even know what's going on
No.
inside of my head? And I just gave a 20-minute explanation from this. If you go to minute 4:45, you can see I said exactly this right here about how like, no, this isn't a command or
Well,
anything. This is a gift.
But
They
you know, the
fast
people-
forward though.
Yeah, the people,
Yeah.
the
Or
people
there-
today.
nobody can watch a video for 20
There
minutes.
you go.
Yeah.
There
So
you
there's
go.
also that.
That's
That's
not
why
true.
we clip
People
that
watch
stuff.
us for 2 hours.
That is
Well, you know,
true.
I mean, a best example of this is Donald Trump, right? So the man is giving a speech. He's asked a question about MS-13.
Yep.
And when he gives his explanation, CNN cuts in right when the explanation starts.
Yes.
You don't get the question. So you don't really know what context this is in.
All right.
And he's saying they're animals, they're nasty people, we don't want them here.
Right.
And then underneath they apply intention and context so that so now the action appears as though this is perfect. And then people's expectation is that Donald Trump is a racist anyway.
Right.
So this all makes sense to them. So when they hear this man say this and they don't know the context, they really do think, oh, see, proof.
Yep.
This
Right
is
there,
proof of
right,
what
yeah.
I'm saying about him. But then and I've had people say this, and I've shown them the full clip, and I've shown them the beginning. I think it's like a 40-minute thing he's doing, but this is like
It's
3
like-
minutes.
Yeah, and with the question, it's like 4 minutes.
Yeah, it's like they asked him. So MS-13 is coming in and bringing in, is coming in and kidnapping women and children, and is bringing them in with drugs. What do you think about and raping people in the in some of the centers? That's what they were saying.
Yeah.
And so his explanation was they're animals, they're disgusting. Which I don't think there's anybody on this place, unless you're an MS-13 member. Sorry, shout out to MS-13. Don't come get me. But if you're an MS-13 member, then yes, you think everything is all good. But there is no one who would disagree with Donald Trump. All the people who found this so deplorable and disgusting were told what intentions he was coming with. Then they were given fake proof underneath of his of what the conversation was about. And then they because of their expectations, his actions appeared to be exactly what they thought.
Yeah.
And they also have an expectation that the news is telling them something that is
And that's
true.
the other
True.
expectation. The same way with Charlottesville. So Donald Trump, there were people who were bussed in. How do you feel about those people? Well, there were good people on the bus. There were bad people as well. Are you saying that there were good people on both sides? Yes, there were good people on both sides. Take that, put that out. Donald Trump on the KKK. No, that's not what he said.
Yeah.
But the intention was they gave you the intention. And I also think that's a big problem today, is that people aren't even thinking for themselves, right?
Yeah, they're consuming the news like the
Everything.
Yeah.
Shit, listening to Aisha Curry. This motherfucker she's a basketball player's wife. She's done nothing. She sat on a basketball player's dick and made 2 kids.
Yep.
Why are we listening to her? What does she know? What does she know besides sitting on 6'6" guys' dicks? What does she know?
He's actually he's 6'3". Get it right. Right?
So I had a question, going with our statement a little bit more too, is this: what would you rather be judged for, an intention or an action? See, because I've always said this. I'm like, because people just look at your actions. I believe that's what you're always going to be judged for. You saying, because regardless of what is going on in your head, regardless of what's going there, it's always going to be. But I also think that Lorenzo, you added to it, and I got to figure out how to reword the statement a little bit or add on to it that way. Is a lot of people's they will even judge your actions that they might be good, but somebody has such great expectations of their actions that they still don't meet the par even if they're decent.
Yeah.
And stuff, or it's like you're not doing enough. Say you're not doing these things and stuff like that. So it's like, because I mean, obviously I think you're always going to be better if judged by an action, because an action can tell if you're basically lazy or not. But then if people do have such crazy expectations of what they expect from you, that I think is good. I think that right there is the common denominator that has to be worked out, because if all of a sudden a woman is like, hey, if we're going to get married, I want you to spend 20 hours a week with me. Right. And you think I'm joking? I know women like that.
It's a part-time
and
job.
that's my point. And it's like, and then you go, man, but no, as a man, I'm a provider, protector, and sometimes I can't come home at night. I get home at 10 o'clock because I'm working till late that way. And then a woman's like,
I can spend 8 hours a night sleeping with you. I'm done in 3 days.
yes, yes. So it's like, but see, that's why I said it's like, because on the flip side, I think that it gives people, when people are always telling them, well, my intentions are this. It's like, I think you're in a bad position, because you're still gonna be judged by your actions.
You haven't talked in a while. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, no, I as hard as it is sometimes, I like being judged by my actions, because if I don't do something, it gives you the opportunity. You're told, hey, you're supposed to do this, you didn't do it. What's going on? Now I can adjust my approach to my time management to make it. Otherwise, you're just going, well, my intentions were good. Well, which ones were real intentions? Which ones were excuses? Right, exactly. So you're going, all right. So there has to be a bar. There has to be a line in the middle, and draw a line in the sand.
I think Renzo hit it right, though. I think that what happens is, because here's what happens. We talked about. I can give you guys the easiest way to fire somebody, or I give you an easy way to get out of a relationship. Okay, it's quite simple. It's like, and I've had these discussions, because you talk about, if you do fire somebody, it seems like a personal attack. Yeah. But there's an easy way to get around that. You see, and because let's say that, because we employ a lot of people, but if you give the expectations up front, right, saying, okay, here's what the company's doing, here's what your expectations, and like this, and so now if somebody's giving you 25%, right, then you can walk to them, because the expectations have been set, and say, okay, listen, I got a question for you. Was I clear about what your expectation were, where we're going with the company? Yes. So the actions, behaviors, and attitudes you have, does that bring us closer or farther away we want to accomplish? Right. And not one person has ever said closer. What they do is they get silent. And I'm like, wait, you have to answer me. Does it get us closer to what we're trying to accomplish? And I make them say, and I've taught my managers this and all my people, so I don't have to do this anymore. But the idea is this, is like when they say, well, farther. I say, now, what you do is put yourself in my shoes. Right. What would you do if you're in my shoes? Exactly. Well, I'd fire me. Okay, we'll see there. Yeah. But see, now it's not a personal attack, because here's what happens. I think it comes in the same way as like having kids. I have 4 kids, and of course, and I'm the disciplinary person in my family. Not one time have I ever said you're a bad kid, but I've said that behavior is bad. Right. You saying? And so I think you hit on the head. I've never explained it to. Like I said, I learned a great way to communicate a little bit better now. Is if I have a relationship with somebody, a friendship, anything the way, but what's your expectation of me? Right. Because if I'm going through something or something comes up, my actions may be totally diverted. And I think we've all been through this, where job sucks a little bit, or there's a personal relationship or something that's like going, but wait, if I'm going through this thing, do I get a hall pass a little bit? That I got to deal with some things? Yeah. Right. And that your expectations are not attainable at this time for some time. I mean, so Lorenzo, I learned from you today. Not joking, I always do, but I'm saying, no, but I think that's the whole idea of sitting down discussion, because I think my statement is good, and I think
today. You haven't been watching the show.
I know.
I've learned things. I'm saying on my statement today, I learned I'm going to expand that statement a little bit now, saying, judge attentions, but you better have some expectations laid out first.
Yeah. Well, and this is a big issue today in relationships, especially with women's expectations of men, right? And so I get this a lot, because I am a single man with no kids, so I get this a lot. I'm looking for a man who can lead, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I'm always thinking in the back of my mind is, well, I know your situation in your house with the man who raised you or who didn't raise you.
Right.
What does leadership look like to you?
I was going to say, what's that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean to you? Because I know what leadership looks like in my home. I've talked about my father on this show. Yep. My father is a man. He's going to say what he's going to say, and he doesn't care if you like it or not. He's 65. You don't like it? Well, I'm 65, so you don't have to like it. But you're going to get the fuck out of my face with your not liking shit ass. That's exactly what my father's going to say. But the one thing that's the example of leadership to me, is how my father led the household. He's been married to my mother for 43 years, right? So obviously whatever is working, it's working. But when that leadership is brought to women today, their expectation of a leader is like the other uncle who was really nice sometimes, or the man who came by sometimes and brought gifts, right? Or the guy who used to tell me how pretty I was, my teacher, right? He used to tell me how pretty I was. Well, he probably was a pedo, so I don't know.
Like, that's not
Right. I don't you
That's
so
a little weird there.
So your leadership is not leadership, it's just veneration.
Yeah.
It's not even leadership, because a leader is going to tell you when you do things wrong, because things got to be done right? We're supposed to be in a partnership. And I expect the same thing from you. If I'm doing something wrong, don't let me keep doing wrong. Don't let me smoke crack and not go to work. Don't do that. That doesn't make sense. Don't sit there and say, well, he'll get it together. Smoke, take a few more hits and go ahead and go on out when you get done. No, I'm not going anywhere. Close the blinds. I'm smoking crack.
That'll go at work.
Right. I'm not going to anybody's job. Don't let me do that. But if a woman is leading and her expectations are, she doesn't know what she's supposed to be looking for in a leader, then what's going to happen is that everything that you do that seems like leadership is going to seem like dominance. You're trying to control me. Yep. You don't want me to be independent. You don't want me to make my own decisions. And of course, I have always been this man who's been very witty and quick. So I might, if a woman was to say, you don't want me to be independent, well, bitch, you was never independent before. Right. So what you complaining about this shit now for?
Yep.
Done with you, right? You're an asshole. No, I'm not an asshole. This is the same guy you met when you met me. I was direct. I was very open then. I'm still the same person. You just don't like it because your expectation was that I was going to become soft. Yep. And very much and doing
your best friend.
And yes, and I was going to be your best friend.
I got a question for you. I got a question for all you guys.
Yoga and be vegan.
Nice. I got a question for all you guys. I want you to think. With your spouse, your friends, have you walked around and asked them what their expectations of a friendship or a marriage or anything is?
I went through that not too long ago.
I mean, I've asked women what they expect in a relationship.
No, the reason why I haven't asked that is because going, did it come up because things were in a good position or a bad position? Because I think it ends up getting to the bad.
Yeah,
that's the point.
Bad.
See, I try to ask that in the beginning, because if your expectations is that you want me to carry your purse, I'm not Drake, so I'm not doing that. We're not gonna be going through the mall and I'm crying over you because you buying new shoes. Yep, that's not gonna happen. And I try to explain to women that this is something that I always say, and women clearly don't get it because it ain't working. Right. I always tell them, I had a life before you. You had a life before me. Your life didn't stop when you met me. Right? So whatever you had going on before, continue doing that. I want you to. That's important to you. You need that life outside of this. And the same thing is going to continue here. Oh, when they hear that the same thing is going to continue here, it's like, oh.
Yeah, because they're seeing you as a
bachelor. Right, look at this. Wait, hold on.
They're seeing you as a bachelor. All the things you did.
Lorenzo, I think you just gave Dana a seizure. Yeah. Let's go for it, Dana. Let's hear it.
Let's go. Okay,
here
but
we
you
go.
need to
See,
remember
face.
polarity.
Camera, get the camera on Dana right now. Come on, Trav. There you go. See the face. Go for it, Dana. Next 20 minutes is yours. Next 20 minutes.
I understand what you're getting at, and that her life continues and that your life continues, but you have to remember, like, you're also talking in your masculine frame when you say that, because the core of the masculine is his mission. So obviously, like, your mission is the number one thing that you're doing. She was, given that she's single, acting very, very masculine. So the core of her masculine at that time was also her mission, because, like, what else was it? But the core of the feminine, the actual feminine, is actually relationships. So that's why women will freak out when you start doing that, because their importance is on the relationship. And hold on. That doesn't mean that you need to drop everything that you're doing and then go to the yoga class with her and spend 20 hours a week with her and make it a part-time job. It doesn't mean that, but women are more volatile when it comes to the relationship, because unless the feminine feels secure in the relationship, she gets derailed. Just like how men need to feel secure, like, in their purpose, like, right when their purpose is going wrong, they're all like, not like, that's not okay to the masculine. Their relationship can be like meh, meh, but they're still gonna have a really, really good life and be happy every day. The feminine, on the other hand, her job can be like going to shit, but if she has a strong relationship, she's totally okay. It's different. That's where the complementary opposite comes in. That's why that woman gets a little freaked out when you do that.
Yeah. And there's like a question for
wait. When I do what?
When you say
that? When I'm laying down expectations.
When I'm being,
dare I say,
when you have boundaries, when you
leader.
Well, remember too, then you're still living in your masculine frame because having boundaries is a masculine thing. That's why the women can't really do it. That's also why your kid listens to you. I was going to say this before. That's also why your kid listens to you and not the mom.
But that's all a part of the leadership. In order for you to lead, you lead from the start. You don't lead from behind. You lead from the start. So you come into this, you give the expectations, you lead.
Yes.
And if she can't follow, bitch, get the fuck out.
Okay,
the door.
that is also correct though, because women need to trust the feminine has to trust the masculine, be able to relax in the feminine. There is a problem with women not letting that decisiveness go.
There you go. So then what you just said.
We do agree. We're just yelling about it.
No. So then what you just said is wrong.
So I got a question. I got a question for Lorenzo because he confused me on one thing. I want to be clear of this because you said, "Hey, woman, you got a life that you before you met me. It should continue." I'm like going, "No, it shouldn't. Shouldn't continue at all." Do you see what I'm saying? Because what if she's sucking dick from somebody else? And what if she's doing? No, I'm joking. Like,
well,
what if
that's what I
you're
was
saying,
like,
like,
your bachelor life.
Wait.
Yeah.
So let me clarify.
Let me stops now. You know what
I
I'm
don't mean that, and I know you said the bachelor thing. That's not what I mean, right? So we're in a relationship. So the sucking dicks on Thursdays has to stop. Suck them on Fridays now. That's gotta stop.
Well, unless it's with you.
I need you to suck them on Fridays for $50 now, and come bring a couple of those dollars home. But see, back to pimping. Every episode I talk about some pimping, and so that's what I mean. I shouldn't be out with women either. Like I mean,
absolutely.
like,
But no. But what I'm saying is this: wouldn't you agree that both of your lives have to change? Because I think that's the mistake. I think that's a mistake with some young men today, where they believe that they're giving up to get in a relationship. Like, no, you're not. Your life's you're taking a change in your relationship.
Well, I think what I'm saying is this, right? I have a podcast.
Yeah.
So I have to devote time to that podcast.
That's a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's what I mean. I don't mean like your recreational bullshit with your homies.
Right.
I don't mean, every Sunday you need to watch football.
Right.
I literally mean you had stuff going on that was important to you, that was like financial, economic, business based. Continue that. Right. Life doesn't stop because you met me.
Right.
Now, as far as you hanging out, slutting it up on the weekends,
guy or something.
that's gotta stop,
Done.
right?
Yeah.
Like what I'm doing, if I had like 80 chicks over here cooking dinner, that's gotta stop sometimes. But
done all the time.
but I what I'm saying is whatever you were doing that was taking you to wherever you were going, your purpose, right? The place that you needed to be financially,
right?
That should continue. And I also tell women this: you got to figure out, because I've been doing all this by myself. So you got to figure out, where do you fit in this, and where do I fit in with your stuff, right? Because I'm older, right? I'm not 25. It's different when if I was 25, we ain't got shit going on but playing. So we can play all day with each other. But now I'm too old for that. So now I have things that I've already established. And the best thing you could do is figure out, how do I fit in here? What skill do I have to make myself available, and this man sees value in me, right? Mm-hmm. so that I can, because I know women want to be involved. You all want to be involved in everything. You nosy bastards. You just need to be involved. But
relationships.
You gotta do things together,
right?
So
then that woman should figure that out. I always hear older women, especially like 50s, 60s, they always say, "Well, he started this business and I became the bookkeeping." Right. Because you knew. I want to be a part. I want to have a place. I want to be able to say, "Dear, what about this?" And I want him to talk to me, and we have these conversations, and we have this together. So I figured out what my role is. But what happens today is the woman believes, well, I'm the boss. So whatever you had going on, I'm going to take over. And it's like, nah, that only works with a what is he?
Soy latte, pussified beta male.
There you go. Soy latte, pussified beta male.
There you go. You're getting it.
Right. Yes.
No, but you have to compromise somewhat too.
Yeah.
Like I remember in my 20s, I was a party boy.
Yep.
And all the relationships never worked because I wanted to be out with the guys and play. And then after the 30s, you get a little bit more serious. You start thinking different things, right? Like maybe I would like to settle down sometime.
Right.
Maybe get married and stuff. You start looking for the one.
Yeah.
And stuff. And it takes. In reality, you're never ready for it.
Right.
And then fatherhood is even harder because it's like it changes your life completely. And and there is some compromise for sure.
Yeah.
There has to be. If not, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, you said something though. So you were talking about, or you just said more like once you get to your 30s and the settle down, whatever. Women don't do this. Men do this. Men tend to go through like stages in life, and they do them like in a linear way. Women don't do that. Women like kind of flow, back and forth and stuff. And there's this book for any women who are interested. If you want to be able to understand men better and the stages that they go through, it's called Keys to the Kingdom. Is the cheesiest storyline ever. It's awful, but the content that's in there is actually very, very good because it talks about it's been a while since I read it, but it talks about how they call it Keys to the Kingdom because everything is written in like a kingdom like kind of analogy. So they talk about like the little boys being like pages or something like that, and how they always want to like help and stuff like that. And then they talk about them being knights. Right, knight would come before knights, and how that part of life is all about like fun and adventure and stuff like that. So that's why like that lower 20s guy isn't really maybe going to want to settle down because he's too busy having fun, unless he sees marriage and fun as like his adventure. Then that can happen then. But then he gets a little more in like the later 20s or like more like 30s stage is more of like the prince stage, because that's when he's a lot more established and looking for someone to be able to take care of, because now he has money. And when men have money, they want to look for someone to take care of and provide for a family. And then there's like a transition stage from going from like that prince, like normally somewhere in the 40s, of going from that prince to a king. And that's like it's called the tunnel. That's like kind of what's labeled as the midlife crisis. I have a whole lot to say about that. But anyway, and that's like a small little like stage that they have to go through. And then they emerge as kings, and then they're like kings of their domain, right? And then there's elders and, stuff like that too. But men go through those stages, and they go through them in order, like in that linear fashion. Women don't really do that. And so that's like a big distinct difference between men and women too, that we should all understand.
Yep.
Just going to your point, I think
I've said a lot today.
You said a question. Does anybody really talk about what you expect out of your friends before you actually establish a friendship? I don't think we do.
No.
As you guys were talking, this has been kind of fun. I've been doing more reflecting than talking this time, which is kind of nice.
Right.
But I'm sitting here listening. As I'm watching my friends grow or my relationships grow with my wife or with my friends, I'm checking their intentions, what they've done. I'm checking what they've done, not their intentions. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Are they showing up when we say we're going to do something together? Do we have some of the same things that we believe in? I start looking for those things, and the more we hang out, I realize this is what I want. And Doc says, you got friends make you feel good, but your best friends make you feel real good. Right. Mm-hmm. And you start to weigh that out. Now, if you don't do that, you might have wasted 6 months hanging out with this person, so there has to be some kind of trial and error period where you are kind of, in a way, interviewing them. Yeah. Or you can do what he just said. I'm actually rethinking my whole process, going, maybe I can talk like that, or that might seem kind of creepy, like, do you do this? Like, I don't know, but but I think there is something.
You fill out this 10-page questionnaire before we become friends.
Especially with a marriage.
Yeah,
because that one's an expensive mistake.
Yeah.
If you don't, friendships, you can just stop talking to them.
People.
Probably even block them on your phone. You're good. Like then it might be awkward if you see them in the grocery store, but you can deal with that once a year. My point is, with a marriage, we have to have conversations about those things. We have to talk about them. Otherwise, you might wake up next to, I don't know, bisexual liberal lady who's a transformer. You didn't know that. Oh crap! What did I marry? So there has to be kind of conversations. So you're right. You need to know who you are, you need to know who she is, and you got to bring it together and make it work. But you got to talk about it. You can't just you do you, I do me. Yeah, there has to be a little more.
It's gonna be
I think you guys kind of hashed that out. And you guys found that happy medium, but it's like that has to happen. Otherwise, you're going through hell.
I found no happy medium.
Right.
Absolutely not. 99% on my side. No happy medium. No.
If it's up to me, I would be eating sandwiches and buffalo wings.
As long as you're making decisions and you are leading, and she can fall into the feminine. It's great.
Yeah. Yep. So, yep.
Like I have, one of the things I used to do before I got married. I used to watch soccer every weekend, like 3 or 4 games in a day. And now, whenever I'm sitting there watching the games, my wife says, "You're gonna spend the whole day watching soccer? Really? The entire day? You don't want to do anything with us?
Yep.
Let's go do something." And I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's go do something. I can watch this later. Or
they are addicting.
Awesome. Well, like I said, it was a great show. Been going on for a couple hours now and stuff like that. So, final thoughts. What you got for us that way? So, All right, let's start with you. Thanks for being here today. What you got for us?
Well, final thoughts. I think we have to keep, raising awareness that it's not about the patriarchy or making women less of what they are, but to be to be a team in the end. Family values are very important. Strong marriages raise strong kids and great men and great women, and that must be the future, not where we're going now. Even for humanity, it's not sustainable. Less child's birth in the world is not gonna. We're gonna eventually, not exist anymore. Yes, I do like to be judged by my actions. Totally. Awesome. It helps me grow and become a better person if I make a mistake, for example.
Dana.
Yeah. I don't know. I talked a lot, so I got a lot of it out. But I think, I did. I want to come back to like the importance of like, okay, everything's a vocabulary lesson though, right? Because like, how often did we have to define something and what somebody meant, today? And that was like pretty much just one of our topics. But it's important to be talking through those things and hashing those things out, because there are so many things in culture. If we just all like stopped and realized what the other person actually meant and was talking about, we wouldn't have so many eruptions, probably going on. And just another plug for women, if you want to understand men better, to read the book Keys to the Kingdom, and also The Way of the Superior Man, and it lays it out a whole lot better.
You gave out 2
I did.
BSBC tips.
I know,
today.
they're my tips.
2.
They are very good books. That they're very, very insightful, and it's why I understand a lot of the things that I do.
You know what? When it comes to men, I really believe I want to look at the camera when I do this. I want to tell you ladies, you need a strong man. And if that hurts your heart, I want you to really think about it deeper. And I want you to ask yourself a question. What if we're right? What if we're right? Why don't you try to do something different and listen to your husband? Men who are acting like
soy latte plus 5 beta males.
Why don't you try sleeping on the couch for a night and put your foot down and see how that does? Because guess what? If you put your foot down in the right healthy areas, you'll start getting your strength back, and you'll start changing the dynamic of your home, and you'll get your balls back. Try that once. Try it. I know the couch is lumpy. Maybe go find a mattress, whatever you got to do. Or, have a couple of drinks and go to bed and pass out and don't care if she rolls around yelling at you. Whatever you got to do. But put your foot down and stop giving in and stop being...
Soy latte plus 5 beta males.
Seriously, if you start doing that, guess what? You're going to change the dynamic. A woman wants you. She just doesn't want to believe it yet because they're not ready for it. But we got to start talking about it more openly, more frequently. And last but not least, yes, I think we all need to be judged by our actions. Because when you don't do an action, it provides conviction. And that conviction will adjust your time management. And you also got to communicate. And when you communicate time management through deadlines and what you expect from the person, things are going to get done in a much more smoother way. And guess what? A lot more arguments are going to decrease in your home because you're going to understand each other. You're going to be on the same page. But until you start increasing your communication and working on those things, you're going to have a lot of the same gaps in communication, useless arguments, and just a whole lot of bitterness hanging around, floating in the air.
Renzo.
Even transformer women want a masculine man, right?
Yep.
Even transformer women expect a man to exhibit masculine behavior. Okay, I did an episode on this on my show last week about a trans influencer who's complaining about how she can't find men to be with because men are not masculine. Now, this is a very strict, to me, it's odd. You are a man who is not masculine. You are living in your own mind where you're not masculine enough to be a man, so you decide to become a woman, but you do want to date men who are masculine. So even trans women, right?
It's a gay person that wants a man.
Yeah, it's a gay person who wants a man. Even they would like that. As far as being judged by my actions, as much as I would like to be judged by my actions, I enjoy people judging me in the mystery. Go ahead. I enjoy it because I like surprising people. I like for people to say, I didn't think he was going to do that. See, when people start, and I feel like when people judge me by my actions, they think that they can anticipate what I'm gonna do next,
Right.
and then they can say, "Oh, well, he'll do this." You don't know what I'll do, right? You don't know if I have a bomb strapped to me right now, and we're all going Allahu Akbar. You don't know, but I would hope that people would judge me by my actions and would see that my actions are what they are, but I know that they're not, so I'm okay with being judged in the mystery.
Yep. Excellent, guys. Like I said, great conversations today, great things. I said, learned a lot of stuff today from everybody, and like I said, love to see you and Dana go at it here that way. That was quite highly entertaining and stuff like that. So it's like, because I saw you say something, I saw her face. I'm like, all right, Dana, go for it. You say it. And it's like, yeah, like I said, you made some clarity on some things I was confused on that way and stuff. And, obviously we were saying some things funny and like being sassy and stuff like that. It's just the nature of having a little fun and stuff. But you're right. It was kind of great discussions, great things. I really thank you for being here, being an awesome journalist.
Yes.
Keep the freedom of the press, keep on putting good stuff out there. Lorenzo, keep on speaking the podcast. Dana, keep doing great things. Travis, same things here. And then we'll continue to bring good people on. If you ever want to be on the show or you want to make some comments, just definitely come and put in the comments below. Like if you want us to bring up a statement, we'll give you credit for it, and we'll discuss and see if we come up with that statement. If you want to be on the show, definitely contact
IDP at thewellnessway.com.
Yep, IDP. So I Disagree Podcast at thewellnessway.com, and be able to come here and share some thoughts, share some things. Like I said, and I love disagreements and I love conversations, and like I said, it's kind of fun because even though we can even agree on something, there could be some disagreement just on how we come to the same conclusions that way. So it's been a very fun podcast. I appreciate everybody that way. So we will see you next week.